What is up, humans of the cardboard? Welcome back to Just Stuts, guys. Today we are back with more Battle of Chaos reveals. We've got 5, what you want to call, what do they call them? They call them free agent cards. So they're just kind of random cards. They're not specific to any archetypes, but they are fairly generic, and we'll get to those in a sec. But we're going to start with a new Mutant card, a new starter for them that's actually pretty cool. It's level 1, and its name is Mutant Mutator. So 1-for-1 target. Pretty nice. Also still psychic, so also an emergency teleport target. This deck did get slightly better with emergency teleport going from 1 to 2 on the most recent ban list, so keep an eye on that. Anyway, Mutant Mutator, level 1 water psychic effect monster, 0/0 for the stats, and its first and second effects are hard once per turns each. The first effect reads, if you control a mutant card, you can special summon this card from the hand. Okay. Secondly, you contribute this card, then banish one mutant card from your hand or deck as cost to special summon one monster from your hand or deck based on the banished card, and if you do, lose life points equal to that monster's original attack. If it's a monster, you summon Beast. If it's a spell, you summon Mist. If it's a trap, you summon Arsenal. This card's amazing for the deck. Straight up, unequivocally, this is amazing for this archetype. I mean, we've already got... I believe one of the starters on normal summon searches any mutant monster. Great. Search this guy, banish any other card from hand to summon one of the boss monsters that way. This guy summons himself and then gets you essentially a 1-card other boss monster, and you can very easily now in the deck, which is how it's appearing, you could very easily get to at least 2 of the boss monsters in the main deck in 1 turn, which is very, very solid. I think if this card didn't have the extension effect from the first effect, I'm not sure it would be nearly as good. It would just be another consistency card, essentially. But the fact that it can just, that it summons from hand to extend anyway, and then gets you into any, like, mutant monsters, like, crazy. Any of the boss monsters at least. So very, very good card for mutants. Very, very nice to see. Of course, don't forget that E-Telly is now at 2. So technically this deck gets 4 new cards to add to its arsenal. And I've already seen this deck kind of floating around in like the rogue conversation. So maybe this is the next little step to help it compete a little bit more in the metagame. But we'll have to wait and see. Next up here, we have some free agents. We have 5 different cards. First and foremost, we have the Mad Hacker. He's a level 2 Dark Cyberse monster, 1000 attack, 600 defense, and 2 hard once per turn effects. The first one reads, if a monster or monsters is special summoned to your opponent's field, you can special summon this card from the hand. Okay, interesting, interesting. Second effect, during the end phase, you can banish this card from the field as cost. Then take control of the monster your opponent controls with the lowest attack, your choice if tied, and while that monster is face up on your field, its effects cannot be activated, and you cannot special summon from the extra deck except for links. So very interesting there, kind of a curious card. I guess this card can be decent if we're in like very specific matchups. I mean, I think about stuff like Salamangrates, and like, yeah, your opponent can just put a body on field, but like you do get to take it at the end phase. So this card's a hand trap. It's not a very good hand trap, all things considered, I think. And like, worst case scenario, you can still just like not use that second effect and just use this as an extender. It's a free level 2 like Cyberse monster, and kind of just use it as link fodder or whatever going forward. But I don't know, it's like it's a really interesting hand trap, but except for like very specific matchups, I'm not really seeing exactly like where this card comes in clutch, aside from decks that really do end on just one monster, and knowing that you have this, they may be like, shoot, I can't really do that play anymore, or if they do, they get punished. So kind of tough, but still very interesting nonetheless. Next up here we have Catnip Li Hua. This is a level 2 Wind Beast effect monster, so a rescue cat target. Pretty cool. 0/0 for the stats, and you can only use its effect once per turn. You contribute this card, then target a level 2 monster in your graveyard except for itself, special summon it, then you can special summon one level 2 monster with a different attribute than that monster from your hand. So it kind of pulls a level 2 monster from hand and grave. They just have to have different attributes. Not bad, interesting card, but very, very specific. So I don't know. We're going to take a pass on that one. Next up here, we have Proscription. This is pretty cool, and I love the artwork on this one. This is a normal spell you can only activate once per turn. Declare one card name as cost. For the rest of this turn, your opponent can activate cards or effects with the same original card name as the declared card name. For the rest of this duel, you cannot activate cards or effects with the same original card name as the declared card name. So, very interesting. It's a regular spell, and it only lasts for the rest of the turn, but I guess it's pretty decent. This card's very interesting to me. It seems like Prohibition, but like better / worse. It's worse in the fact that like Prohibition stays on the field until it gets removed. This card can't just be outed via spell and trap removal, so I guess that is nice. But I do see the utility here. If you have a deck and you're playing maybe a combo deck, and you know, like maybe you're looking at your hand and you're like, I beat Ash, I beat Veiler, I beat Imperm, but I don't beat Nib. I lose to Nib. Well, you can just fire this card and say Nib. Or you start your play, right? You see that your opponent doesn't have Ash, doesn't have Veiler, and the one thing you're scared of, you're like Nibiru, and something like that. And then you just like continue on with your turn, or even going second, you're like Solemn Strike, problematic card, or an archetype that, like if an archetype searched out a trap or something, you can start your turn by just activating this and calling that trap, and now that trap is just offline for the rest of the turn, and that can be the difference sometimes between being able to play through interruption or not. So this card is kind of like a pretty nice little like fuck you to just like the one card that you think your deck loses to. But it definitely has its downsides. I don't know. It's a really interesting card, though, for sure. And not just going first, but also going second. Playing into boards, you could just literally go Borreload Savage Dragon, and now your opponent can't negate anything with Savage. And it just depends on what your hand beats, what your hand doesn't beat, and then you just pick accordingly. But very interesting card. I actually like this card. I think it's a pretty good generic one. This could be some sort of like meta game staple or side deck staple for specific matchups, right? That could be a very cool one. Definitely probably not a main deck card, but probably a good side deck card. Next up here, we have Recklessness and Punishment. This is a new normal trap. This card says if your life points is lower than your opponent's, you can activate one of these two effects. The first one reads, destroy one monster your opponent controls with attack equal to or lower than the life point difference. Not bad, doesn't target, gotta like that, but you have to have the right disparity in life points to be able to hit everything. So you want to obviously that to be live as much as possible. So maybe, I don't know, we have the new Dino Ruffia archetype, which pays a lot of life points very quickly. So you will have a very opportune chance to be able to pop essentially anything with this card. It's pretty cool. And then the second effect says special summon one monster from your graveyard with attack equal to or lower than the difference. So this can also be a Call to Haunted, but again is restricted based on how big the gap in life points is currently. Cool card. I like that there's two options there, right? So like one's not great, maybe the other one's live and going to be decent, but does require you to essentially be losing that part of the duel already, which is never too great. And then we get to the last card here. We have End of the Line. This is a normal trap card, and it reads as follows. If your life points is less than 100, draw 2 cards. Then, if your life point is lower than 10, draw 2 more cards. So if you could somehow get your life points lower than 100, you draw 2. Okay, not bad. If you can somehow get your life points lower than 100, you draw 2 more. This is insane. This is like so crazy to me. I'm trying to think. I think there are some cards in Yu-Gi-Oh that just simply say like, if you can like pay a total of life points and then like a monster gains that. I think one of the Winged Dragon of Ra cards does this. Maybe it's just the original Winged Dragon of Ra where you can like pay into an amount of life points and then it like its attack becomes that number of life points or something like that. Very, very interesting. I'm sure there's the potential to like manipulate this and then like draw 4. but that's like not going to come up too often. It's more of a cheeky card than anything else. So that covers us all for today. We have our mutant card, very nice card for mutants, very, very welcome. Extender and a starter at the same time. This card is phenomenal for them. It's also searchable via emergency teleport, and the card that searches monsters for the archetype, very, very strong. And then some of these generic cards, I will say this card's pretty interesting to me. I think this card isn't going to come up too much competitively. This card could be an interesting like side deck staple. This card could be interesting depending on the archetype. Maybe it's an archetype that pays a lot of life points. And then this card is more cheeky than anything. So that is going to do it for us here today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts on the new cards we talked about today. And I will see you in the next video. So if you haven't, you want to see more news videos from me, reviews and stuff like that, peace.